So I'll start from the big picture. Okay? Hamilton population is currently about 537,000. By 2051, the population of Hamilton will grow to 820,000. Okay? So that is about 236,000 more people in the next 3 decades, right? And right, and and how many more jobs are going to be gained in the city of Hamilton? 122,000 jobs. So all of these people, they need a place to live. The city of Hamilton, they know that. The mayor of the Hamilton, they know that. Even though November, yes, you're very welcome, Andrew. Thank you for being here. So the mayor, they know, but in Hamilton, we have these quote unquote hashtag stop the sprawl, anti-sprawl groups who dislike expansion because prices of everything goes up, rent prices goes up, and there are some people who can't afford, and of course it squeezes them out to go a bit further away if it's the far east of Hamilton, because they can't live in the very core or the center or central of Hamilton. So in order to accommodate this growing population over the next 3 decades, right, we need to have over in excess of over 100 something thousand units, more units, in addition to what is currently existing in the city of Hamilton. So November last year, 2021, they rejected, the Hamilton City Council rejected the urban expansion boundaries, right? So meaning more southeast of, so I believe it's Alfreda, which is like Stonechurch and Mud. Southeast of that, you have lots of acres of land, or probably hectares as well, was going to be rezoned, of course, to build more housing. That was rejected. So what that means is in the very downtown core of Hamilton, right? There's only that's going to cause things to for buildings, the more infills and intensification, where you would see more high-rise buildings in the downtown core of Hamilton. So it's no different than the downtown core of Toronto. There's only one way they can go, which is up. So you have developers who are even proposing 40-story tall buildings. And of course, in the zoning plans of the downtown core of Hamilton, they are, starting to allow higher density buildings, and of course, giving the consideration to, the traffic flows and et cetera, right? So, so they're not just letting developers do anything and anything they want, of course, within reason. And you got the planners there in the city who are also making those decisions on what developers can do and can't do as well. So that's the population growth in the city of Hamilton. So the next, Anna, you have a question? Yep. And the person who is just labeled the phone, right? If you're familiar with the Hamilton area, just reaction puts a thumbs up. If not, then just no need to. So at least I'll know who is familiar with the Hamilton area or not. Okay, so you know Hamilton. So the average rent price. I'm just going, randomly here, okay? So the average rent price of apartments in the city of Hamilton. Now, I focus with apartments more in the mid-market, right? So there's like premium rental apartments that it's in the Royal Connaught building, and some of these new condos like 150 Main Street, right? That is more than $2,000 a month. So I'm more in the middle, right? And average rent prices one bedroom, there was an article in the Hampton Spectator today, average one bedroom price is about $1,550. So $1,550. And two bedroom, $1,850. Two bedrooms. So that's average. Now, from the apartments, which I manage, for those who don't know my story, right? I manage a portfolio of about 30 apartments. And these are high quality apartments, multifamily apartments. And prices range one bedroom, 1,400, 1,500, and two bedroom, right? 1,600, right? 16, 1,700 average. And, you know, so those are the average rent prices. And then there is the more lower income where, you know, some one bedrooms are still 11, 1,200. Okay. Did someone have a question there? Or it was just your mic was unmuted. So I'd ask you all a question. Interest rates. If you think interest rates is going to increase in the next announcement date of January 26, next Wednesday, just put a thumbs up. Just want to have an idea who think the Bank of Canada is going to increase interest rates on Wednesday, next Wednesday. So Anna, so that's one. So right, so my gut feeling, you know, Anna, and the phone says they're going to increase it. So there are talks that, you know, it could happen as early as end of this month, right? On next Wednesday, January 26th, when is the next interest rate announcement? My gut feeling, it's not going to happen. It's similar as Benjamin Toll, right? The CIBC economist person, he said, very unlikely that they'll do so as well. You know, initially, they did say more about March. Yep, I agree with you, Frank. Yep, so they aren't going to increase it. And initially, Tiff Macklem, the Bank of Canada governor, did say March, April, right? It's when it's going to happen. Now, you probably read in the news, on the America side, this analyst guy on JP Morgan is making these crazy predictions that it's going to happen sooner. And of course, there can be like 6 interest rate hikes this year, right? And of course, there is, you know, Jamie Dimon, the guy from, what's that bank? Is it Chase? You know, in Wall Street, he's predicting even, you know, it can be as much as 200 basis points, right? Which, you know, has happened in the past. But in Canada, right now we're in the 5th wave, right? We're in the 5th wave. I saw John Jessica came in. Yep. Thank you, Favor. Thank you very much. So we're in the 5th wave, and there's a strain to the whole system. Hospitals, you think of any places out there, right, where there's labor shortages, 0.5 the most over the next year. Could happen. You could see probably up to 2 hikes this year in Canada. But I think more in the second half, because June this year we have the provincial elections. And, you know, you probably saw in the news, Doug Ford saving people, you know, digging them out of the snow and et cetera, But we have provincial elections June this year, and leading up to that, right? So the first half of this year, you wouldn't see, we wouldn't see much activities, but don't be surprised, because in some cases, the markets, they are pricing in for early interest rate hikes, and, you know, we'll see what happens. So that covers interest rates, right? And for those who are thinking, okay, well, what does that mean, Chin? If interest rates are, you know, if it's going up March or April, should I buy before then or buy after? It doesn't matter. You buy now if you see a good opportunity, because if the first hike happens, the first interest rate hike happens March, April, right? Now it's going to wake up some investors, and they're going to say, well, let me try to get in before the next hike happens. So, you know, so you'd have that reaction that, would start happening. And it's the same that happened in 2017, 2018, when there was 5 interest rate hikes. And the first one happened July 2017. And then investors started, more investors started jumping in to trying to get a good deal. And I would say things really started to slow down more, end of 2018. And then the Canada elections was October 2019, okay? So in Hamilton, the LRT, which is a light rail transit, right? In 2021, right, Hamilton got approval finally from the federal and the provincial government. So in total, $3.4 billion, right? So 1.7 billion from the federal, 1.7 billion from the provincial, right? So they're gonna build this long LRT, 14 kilometers from McMaster all the way to from the west end all the way to the east end by Eastgate Square Mall, right? That's by Centennial Parkway on that side, right? Close to Main Street there. And that's going to be 14 kilometers, 17 stops in between. So Metrolinx bought a bunch of properties where they're going to have these 17 stop stations, right? And construction, the timeline, it is to start March this year, right? March this year, the construction is to begin. And of course, it'll, take a couple years, probably 2 or more. And then the city of Hamilton will be the operator, so it's no different than if you're paying a bus fare. And of course, that money that's public transit, and that goes in, that's revenues the city collects. So LRT, that's the LRT update. And that brings in 7,000 jobs in the city of Hamilton, right? So in the message in the meetup group, I mentioned why are larger and larger national and multinational institutions entering the Hamilton market? Well, we are mostly seeing it around the Hamilton airport, okay? In the Hamilton airport, there is something called the Airport Employment Growth District. So it's like a whole marked out area. I'm just trying to keep things in a very simple, simplistic way, right? Because we have about at least 75% of the group here is very familiar with the Hamilton area. So this marked out area around the Hamilton airport, right? The John C. Monroe, we have 551 hectares of developable employment land. So we already have some big, institutions. I mentioned Amazon has a fulfillment center there, 855,000 square feet. And the timeline, it was supposed to open November last year. There's a couple months delay, but they may open February, March this year. That's 1,500 jobs. And that's Amazon. Big fulfillment center. You probably have seen it around in Mississauga, Toronto, but they're right by the Hamilton airport, right? Which is much south from the downtown core. And that is, yep. And so 1,500 jobs. And you have companies like DHL, which is another big shipping company, right? They spent 100 million to build a 200,000 square feet facility, right? And these are gonna, and they ship internationally. So they have cargo flights from UK, London to Hamilton. So it's becoming that sort of industrial hub, right, for commercial deliveries and cargo flights. And also just to name a few other the real estate developers, right, or industrial investors, we have Live Developments. They bought 127 acres of land for 30 million in 2020. Panattoni bought 82 acres, right, north of the airport. Rice Group bought 53 acres. So these are guys, they know that the future of how that industrial hub around the Hamilton airport is going to look like is no different than what you see in the Pearson airport, right, in Mississauga, the Toronto Pearson airport. I mean, imagine owning land or properties or hotels around that side. it's going to be, a very, very attractive, area to invest in. So, and of course it is, I would probably say about 20 minutes from the airport to where the Lincoln Alexander Highway is, right? So you would see most of these trucks, they can get on that Lincoln Alexander on their way to Toronto, or from the Lincoln Alexander, the Red Hill, and they go straight to the QEW and then more towards the west in Niagara Falls. So around the Hamilton Airport, it will become an industrial hub. Now, going back to the downtown core of Hamilton, you have the first Ontario Center, which was formerly the Cops Coliseum, right? So that's like the Scotiabank Arena in downtown Toronto, right? We have, a group, right? It's HUPEG. I think, we have a few of the big developers in that group. They're going to do a $500 million renovation to that whole, First Ontario Center. And that is going to be more or less like a entertainment hub. And you will see that happening over the next 3-4 years. So if you have the opportunity to even buy a property along York Boulevard, or in, within that area, a lot of things are happening. And, just about a week or two ago, you had an article. It was one of the radio buildings on Caroline and King Street. They're going to, redevelop that into a more mid-rise sort of condo building. And of course, the bottom portion, so it'll be mixed use. And the bottom portion, there'll be some office and retail, I believe, right? So there are some other, because around 75% of everyone here is in Hamilton, right? There is a group, Forge and Foster. There's a guy named Joe Accardi, right? Joe Accardi, did a bunch of restaurant investments, and then, he's doing more, he's getting more into film and television, and also buying a lot of industrial buildings around the Fred and Chatham Street, which is the area where the Hamilton Spectator building is currently, but they sold the building, right? Toaster sold the building. And since 2020, he has invested about 83 million just buying properties around that area, around the Hamilton Innovation, park, or the innovation building there. And, because there is big potential there that he sees more for like film and biotechnology. So he's getting into that space because those tenants are paying high rent, right? So that's one player. He's not a big fish in the pond, but he's, that's his real estate play. And then there are also, other developers like Core Urban, who is currently doing Augusta, right beside the Chateau Royal, I believe, right on I believe James Street South, right? So also doing condos as well, but that developer does more mixed use buildings, right? And he developed a lot of those buildings on King Street and James Street, right? Which is which is another hub for restaurants and these places to eat, as well as a residential at the top as well. But the biggest real estate developer in Hamilton, right, is Mr. Darko with Rancor Group. And so he does more high-rise projects, and one of his high-rise projects is right on King Street and Sanford, right? I don't have the specific address, but that is over 200 something units, that building. And one of my properties sits, right next to that building as well. So who knows, if Mr. Darko knocks on my door and wants to buy my property, then, you give me a great price. But you're seeing all these major developments happening right in the downtown core. Kiwi Condos already broke ground, right? Which is on the Ferguson, right? Ferguson and King William. And then you have the Hamilton waterfront, which is $142 million redevelopment. So you would start seeing construction happening in Pier 5, 6, 7, and Pier 8, where there would be 1,300 residential units and over 10,000 square feet of commercial spaces. So a lot of money is being poured in Hamilton, right? Around October of 2021, they already surpassed the $2 billion building permit values in Hamilton. And in previous years, every year it was about $1 billion in building permits. And all of these commercial real estate transactions, which I mentioned before, right? In 2020, it was about $1.2 billion worth of commercial real estate transactions. And in 2021, it was more than 1.2 billion. But in the third quarter of 2021, there was over 400 million. And that pretty much tells you a lot of these big players are entering the city of Hamilton. And why? That is the question. So as investors, like they say, millionaires or billionaires, they go where the money is. And this is where the money is for the next few years. And also, we still have an influx of Toronto people coming to Hamilton, which will cause price increases in the foreseeable future, right? In Toronto, I read today, you have a 12 feet wide property in Toronto listed for 1.345 million, right? And, you know, and it's a very slender property, 12 feet wide. Think about that. That's probably the size of your bedroom, right? 12 feet wide. Yep. But in Hamilton, you're seeing, surprisingly, a triplex in the Stinson neighborhood listing at 1.3 million, right? Overall, property values, everything is overvalued, but you know that's pretty much what you're seeing. Sometimes duplexes selling as high as 850, 900, right? And when people from Toronto come to Hamilton and they see a price like that, anything less than $1 million, to them, it's a good deal. So we are still seeing those trends happening. And, you know, and that's a bit about what's happening in Hamilton. But of course, you know, I would like to open it up to any general questions for general discussions now. So thank you very much.